have been a lot of strange things that I've read about, heard about, and talked about, but probably none is stranger than the Flushing Meadows Park Zoo animal mutilations and UFO mystery. Flushing Meadows Park has a long and unusual history. It's located 10 miles east of Manhattan, on Long Island, in the borough of Queens, New York City, in the state of New York, between the towns of Flushing and Corona. However, strange lights are not the only bizarre phenomenon associated with UFOs that's occurred in the park. In 1968, the Flushing Meadows Zoo opened up in Flushing Meadows Park on the grounds of the old 1964 to 65 World's Fair. Although small in scale, the zoo had a number of exhibits and plenty of animals, including sea lions, black bears, sheep, bison, mountain lions, coyotes, bald eagles, birds, and wolves. Since its opening, the zoo has been associated with several disturbing UFO events. The first may have occurred in 1977. After several nights of UFO sightings above the park, wolves managed to escape from the zoo on November 30th, 1977. Official reports said that 12 wolves managed to claw their way through a chain-link fence surrounding their pen and killed several of the other animals until they were recaptured by Parks Department personnel and New York City police. However, a caretaker working there at the time said that while making his rounds, he found several animals missing, not just the wolves, and others dead. The dead animals did not look like they had been killed by predators. He said that none of the animal pens or enclosures had been unlocked, damaged, tampered with, or broken into. There were a number of odd instances where UFO sightings are associated with the sudden appearance or disappearance of animals. Animals found to be missing from zoos turn up elsewhere without explanation. Wild animals not native to an area suddenly appear in that area also without explanation. All this tends to occur during times when UFOs are observed nearby. The caretaker present during the 1977 event first contacted me in 1989 about another and far more disturbing occurrence at the zoo. He and several others that worked there met me near the area of the zoo to talk about this. It was being rebuilt at that time, and they claimed that the reason for that was something so disturbing that I still have trouble grasping the enormity of what actually happened. After seeing me on a local television news broadcast talking about a major UFO sighting and landing in nearby Casino Park, several employees of the zoo called my UFO hotline and asked to meet with me. After a phone conversation with one of them, I met them at Flushing Meadows Park, and we talked about what happened at the zoo. It began with 2 nights of UFO sightings in 1987. Green and white balls of light that formed into all sorts of shapes hovered directly above the zoo and caused the animals to become greatly disturbed. Due to budget cuts and because there were police in the park all night long, caretakers and other zoo employees were no longer present at the zoo all night long. The last one would leave around 11 o'clock at night and show up again around 7:30 in the morning to open up the zoo for the other employees. On the morning after the 2 nights of UFO sightings in 1987, the caretaker and several other employees opened the zoo and were horrified to find every animal in the zoo dead. Not just dead, but strangely mutilated. The caretaker and other employees told me that all of the animals were still locked or secured in their pens, and exhibits with no sign of forced or keyed entry, so it was not like someone went and just broke in there. Although they were unable to photograph any of the animals, they said all of them looked as though they had been surgically autopsied or examined. Despite the deaths and apparent mutilation, little or no blood was present. Needless to say, the zoo was closed without explanation, and no trespassing signs were placed near the entrance and on fences surrounding it. Parks Department personnel and police were summoned. The zoo was closed, and within hours, all of the dead animal carcasses were removed. At that point, plans were made for the zoo to be leveled. Officially, the deaths never happened, and the press showed no interest in the matter, even if it was reported to them at all. With plans already in the works to refurbish the zoo buildings, it wasn't hard to arrange for the entire zoo property to be rebuilt buildings and enclosures were destroyed, and several inches of dirt were actually removed from the area of the zoo. During that time, none of the employees that spoke to me were allowed near the place. Most were assigned to other temporary duties in the park. When it officially reopened in 1988, the zoo had already undergone a $16 million rebuilding. All new buildings, exhibits, and animals were now available to the public. The zoo employees that spoke to me said that the animal deaths and mutilations were eventually explained away as the work of vandals or ritualistic killers in an internal report. However, they point out that the vandals would have made all kinds of noise trying to kill the animals, had to break into most of the pens and exhibits, and would have left a significant amount of blood and other evidence behind. None of these things were present. No alarms went off, and the park police and other employees working in nearby areas on the night in question heard nothing. The only reason that the caretaker and employees contacted me with their stories was because they felt that the possibility existed that the same thing could happen again, and they found the previous explanation for the deaths and mutilations to be absolutely ridiculous.